Okay, hopefully we are good to go. I am sorry for the lag. I know I'm looking like an idiot, but we are trying a couple different things out with our streaming setup. I'm trying to stream to multiple platforms at once through OBS instead of Streamlabs. And because I am a very stupid individual, it's difficult for me to do that. We got a lot of stuff going on, but what's exciting is we have breaking news. Calvin Ridley, Aaron Rodgers, NFL Combine. I mean, a ton of different I want to say events that are changing the Dynasty landscape overall, changing the value of guys like Aaron Jones, Devontae Adams, A.J. Dillon, of course, and not to mention those rookies. So we are going to get a mock draft underway. Not only is this mock draft going to include those pretty big events, but we are also going to be having the rookies in this mock draft. So you're going to get to see exactly where Breece Hall goes in a 12-team Superflex tight end premium format. Now we have this draft filled. I don't care if the audio sounds a little bit weird. We've tried to fix it as is. So let me just get this set up, send this out here. And yeah, you have, I believe, Seabass up here with the 101. Let me pull up the chat to make sure this doesn't sound horrible. Aaron says there's sound. We got audio. Thank God. It's probably pretty important for a video. Hopefully Seabass comes back in here. Like I said, we were about to get this mock draft going previously, and what ended up happening is all of a sudden we just had about 20 different issues. So I think we should be good. Seabass, please come back in this mock draft. If not, I mean, they're going to auto him Patrick Mahomes. He should be back by the 2-3 turn, and we should be good to go from there. But I know a lot of people probably already went through and dropped a like on the last live stream. I got to ask it for y'all one more time. Please go down there. Drop a like if y'all have not done so already. Let's get this live stream ready to roll yet again. Okay, so Josh Allen goes to the 101. That was an auto pick. You get Patrick Mahomes going at the 102. Yeah, Seabass is right back in here. We'll have no more autos the rest of this draft. If he wanted Mahomes, if he wanted Josh Allen, doesn't really matter. Those are going to be the top two options going pretty much every single time. And Canadian Kid says you got to do a rookie Superflex mock draft. We've already done rookie Superflex mock drafts. I mean, we went through and did like 3 of them just 2 or 3 days ago. So I think we're fine on that front. Now, we are on the clock here. You have Jamar Chase, the best player available according to ADP. Honestly, I'm probably going to ignore this ADP, just slightly scroll down a bit. And a player that a lot of people think is going to hold out this upcoming season and definitely disappointed down the stretch this past year, dealing with injuries, dealing with another injury to his star receiver, is Kyla Murray. I understand that Kyla Murray, definitely a player that is not trending in the correct direction if you're looking at his overall value. But at the end of the day, I still want to stand by Kyla Murray as a quarterback that does have the elite passing volume ceiling. And we've also seen the ability to go out there and get double-digit rushing touchdowns, which we know will not only raise that ceiling to having that Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes level, I mean, just of potential league breaker, but also it's going to give you a much higher floor, even if your top receiver goes down like a DeAndre Hopkins. Okay, so Aaron says Burrow ahead of Kyler is ridiculous to me. I'll agree that I mean, if you check out my rankings over there on locals, you're going to see that I have Kyler Murray ranked ahead of Joe Burrow. However, I'm not going to say it's ridiculous. I can easily see an argument to be made to take Joe Burrow in that. I mean, if you look at his supporting cast, he has 22-year-old Jamar Chase, 23-year-old T. Higgins, whereas Kyler Murray, maybe you don't even have Christian Kirk this upcoming season. Rondale Moore completely flamed out year one, and it's not necessarily like, I mean, Joe Burrow looks like a bum. No, Joe Burrow looks like a great NFL quarterback in a 4-point passing touchdown format. I'm still going to prefer Kyler Murray based on that rushing ceiling, but I mean, I'm pretty sure Kyler Murray is actually younger than Joe Burrow, which is kind of funny to think about. And in a 6-point passing touchdown league where I'd be more confident with the passing volume for Joe Burrow going forward, I could see leaning with Joe Burrow in that end. I mean, we have them in the same tier in our rankings, so I think that really you can't make a wrong decision. I would say 90% of people watching this live stream and 90% of the people in the Dynasty community, however, will have Joe Burrow ranked ahead of Kyler. Okay. So Matthew says, audio is fine, might just be me, but it's still only coming out of one side. No, that's definitely an issue I'm going to have to fix. I mean, with the microphone we have, it's, like I said, I'm too stupid to fully understand it, but it's picking up the left side for y'all most likely, and I'm going to have to down mix that to mono, but I'll figure out how to do that later on. Okay, so yeah, there's not too much to discuss. You have Lamar Jackson, Dak Prescott going at the 108, 109. I think at this point you can probably say, well, with Dak, he probably doesn't have the same ceiling that you're seeing with any of these other quarterbacks, in that literally this past season, the Dallas Cowboys led the NFL in points scored. However, Dak Prescott was still a low-end quarterback one, and a big reason for that, and I know, y'all are tired of hearing me talk about it, but it's the fact that Kyla Murray does not run the ball whatsoever anymore. And now you have A.J. Brown going at the 203 to pair up with Justin Jefferson. Personally, I don't know if I can take A.J. Brown here. Y'all know my stance on really valuing those bell cow running backs on their rookie contracts. And with A.J. Brown, well, yes, he's been one of the most efficient wide receivers in the NFL. I have him ranked as, at least I had him ranked as my Dynasty wide receiver 3. I had to move him down just slightly, just based on, really the fall off at the receiver position not occurring until a little bit later on in their respective careers. And looking at the season that you just had from Cooper Kupp, I was willing to move A.J. Brown behind Kupp, despite obviously A.J. Brown having age on his side. So Daza coming up, and what I've seen lately in a lot of Flock Locals leagues is I've actually seen a lot of people who take Dak Prescott, go and just stack him literally with their next pick with CeeDee Lamb. And CeeDee Lamb was a player that previously I was saying was potentially a little bit overvalued when he was going in this range. However, I was one of those idiots that was not expecting Amari Cooper to get cut. I thought Amari Cooper was definitely going to be a cut candidate if you were asking me 12 months ago. But after Michael Gallup spent the entire season injured and suffered, a devastating ACL tear at the very end of the year, I was all of a sudden looking at Amari Cooper saying, yeah, they can save $16 million. But, are they really going to be confident just re-signing Michael Gallup, running it back when he had that injury so late in the season? I thought instead, maybe they just bit the bullet and paid Amari Cooper for one more season, cut him the following year to save $18 million when they knew they had a fully healthy Michael Gallup, assuming that he took a team-friendly deal. But now that I was wrong and Amari Cooper's out of Dallas, I think that CeeDee Lamb is a fine pick. And let me pull up my Dynasty rankings. This is another big piece of news that we need to digest. But previously, I had CeeDee Lamb ranked as the wide receiver 7, behind A.J. Brown, behind Cooper Kupp, behind Tyreek Hill, behind Davante Adams. But at this point, I think you could easily move CeeDee Lamb up, especially ahead of those veteran receivers. But now we are going to be up on the clock. If I was... Ooh, this is going to be an interesting selection. We're going to go CeeDee Lamb here for a reason. We just discussed the fact that, with no Amari Cooper, even if Michael Gallup does take that step up, the target share should still be there, especially with the assumption that Dalton Schultz possibly takes a slight step back. CeeDee Lamb is still incredibly young, only 22 years old. Also, with CeeDee Lamb, I will say that in terms of, me watching a wide receiver in person, I actually got to see, all in the same season, in person, I got to see Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, and CeeDee Lamb all play. CeeDee Lamb had an absurd performance his final season against us, the University of Texas at OU. Of course, that means absolutely nothing whatsoever with his Dynasty value, but it is always fun to flex on y'all that I got to see those players actually on the field in college. Dylan says, is this tight end premium? Yes, this is going to be tight end premium, and Breece Hall goes there at the 208. I think that Breece Hall is a completely fine selection, and the reason I ended up going with CeeDee Lamb is just if we were looking at the overall Dynasty ADP, I wanted to take the assumption that the two players that I was possibly hoping were going to make it back to us in the third round, and a lot of times, I'm just wrong with this. Of course, I'm wrong all the time. But I thought there was that outside chance that we had either Breece Hall or Mark Andrews making it back to us in the third based on how the sleeper ADP was set up. And so I thought that maybe we could get a little bit sly, take CeeDee Lamb at the 207 and still get one of our guys in the middle of the third. Clearly, I was just an idiot thinking that when you have Breece Hall, when you have Mark Andrews going at the 208, the 209, and I understand a lot of people are going to say, well, Breece Hall hasn't even been drafted yet. How are you going to take him over Austin Eckler? How are you going to take him over Christian McCaffrey? Those were running backs drafted in 2017. While yes, if you're talking about a redraft format for the expectations you should have this upcoming season, of course you prefer Eckler. Of course you prefer Christian McCaffrey. But if we just say, hell, what happens if CMC is a top 3 running back on a points per game basis this year? Austin Eckler's a top 5 running back on a points per game basis this year. And then Breece Hall is, a high-end running back 2 on a per game basis. what running back's going to be worth more 12 months from now? That's going to be Breece Hall. And it's not even going to be close. Breece Hall, for the profile that he has, for him to be 20 years old at this moment, if he comes in and he is just a running back 2 in Dynasty, if he has the same season Javonte Williams does, Breece Hall is a significantly better prospect than Javonte Williams was last offseason. If Breece Hall just goes out there, puts up a running back 2 season, we've already seen the Dynasty community and how they're willing to react when those rookie running backs find success. He was a better prospect than Najee Harris, a better prospect than Javonte Williams. So I am completely fine seeing Breece Hall go here in the middle of the second. And if we run a couple more of these startup drafts and all of a sudden this is just consistently where he is going, I'm going to be fine taking Breece Hall potentially over a player like CeeDee Lamb, dependent on your league format, how many flex spots and starting wide receiver slots you have, and how important the wide receiver depth is going to be on your team overall. But I really wanted to get cute with it. I really wanted to see if we could get a Breece Hall, get a Mark Andrews falling to us in the middle of the third. Clearly, that was not the case. Clearly, we were just flat out wrong. Okay, so I think our next pick, probably not going to be a surprise to too many people. We have Lawrence going at the 304. Jalen Hurts at the 305. Okay, yeah, so I'm going to make an easy selection here of Matthew Stafford at the 306 with Matthew Stafford. While, yes, he's a little bit older. I believe Stafford is 33 years old. I mean, 34 years old. I apologize. I actually just did, probably spent 2 days doing an in-depth dive on how the Dynasty community reacts to quarterback age and when the actual production should fall off for these quarterbacks. And my initial hypothesis was correct, as most people would assume that these quarterbacks' age is way too valued in Dynasty, where if these guys can make it to 38, 39 years old, just give me the next 5 years, the security that you have with someone like Matthew Stafford. I would actually prefer Stafford over these guys like Trevor Lawrence, over someone like Jalen Hurts. And, I used to be hot takey when I'd say, give me Matthew Stafford over Trevor Lawrence when Trevor Lawrence failed through the first 6 weeks of this past season. But at this point, I think most people would honestly probably agree with me on that one. DK Metcalf goes here at the 307. I'm fine if you want to take Metcalf at the 307. And previously, when he was going in the middle of the second round here, I thought DK Metcalf was one of the worst value receivers in Dynasty. I honestly did not consider him here where we took Matthew Stafford based on the stability I believe that Matthew Stafford should give us over the next 4 seasons. But, Metcalf at the 307. It is what it is. Jeremy says Walker's the running back 1 for me. With Kenneth Walker, the issue is just, the receiving game upside. Like, realistically, what are we hoping for with Kenneth Walker in the receiving game? I don't necessarily know if I have a good answer for that. Okay, Caleb says, would you take Breece Hall over Waddle regardless of landing spot? I don't want to say regardless of landing spot because that's worded a little poorly. Say, if you were telling me, okay, Mason, right now, Breece Hall or Jaylen Waddle, who would you have? I'm not going to lie, based on how those young running backs are valued, especially after they hit their rookie seasons and the profile that Breece Hall has, I would be fine valuing Breece Hall over Jaylen Waddle. I know that's crazy. I understand that Jaylen Waddle just put up an elite rookie season, but it comes down to wide receiver versus running back value there. So I would be fine taking Breece Hall, but all of a sudden when you say regardless of draft position, give me the flexibility to change my mind if all of a sudden Breece Hall, say, I don't want to act like this is a possibility, but say the Tennessee Titans pull a Derrick Henry when they have DeMarco Murray there and paying DeMarco Murray a ton of money at the end of his second contract. If the Tennessee Titans feel the need to all of a sudden get Breece Hall in the second round, which of course is not going to happen. I'm just using it as, an extreme hypothetical, then no, I would probably rather have Jaylen Waddle. So if you're asking me at this moment, with the uncertainty in the air, I would prefer Breece Hall, but that could easily change dependent on landing spot. Of course, we still have so much information to come in. I'm willing to roll those dice. However, based on the projected landing spots that we could have for these running backs, what if Breece Hall goes in the end of the first round to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? They let Leonard Fournette walk. All of a sudden, he's there with Keyshawn Vaughn to handle 25 touches a game. In that instance, I think Breece Hall is right up here with Javonte Williams, Najee Harris. George Kittle goes to the 312. Oh my gosh. This literally looks almost identical to the startup that JN and I recently had. And I have something to admit. I recently took Justin Fields in a Dynasty startup. I understand people are probably going to be very disappointed with that. But my issue with Justin Fields is when he's going over players like Watson, like Matthew Stafford, like Trevor Lawrence, like Trey Lance. That's my issue with Justin Fields. But this is exactly where we took him. We took him at the 3-4 turn. And at that price point, I actually think Justin Fields is a fine guy to draft in Dynasty based on the possibility of, A, if he does hit, and you know based on the Dynasty hype that he has, he will all of a sudden be valued as a first-round startup pick just based off name value alone. And B, with Justin Fields, that rushing upside that we talk about all the time. So while I think it's crazy that a lot of other drafts you're going to see, instead of going at the beginning of the 4th round here, Justin Fields goes at the beginning of the 2nd round alongside Trey Lance. They shouldn't be close in my opinion. But if you're going to get Justin Fields at the 3-4 turn, I am completely fine with that value given his rushing upside and given the Chris Godwin effect that we previously talked about in one of these live streams, where if that player is hyped to begin with and then they hit, just talk about an exponential gain with their value. And you have to be so damn excited if you start with Trey Lance at the 201 and then somehow in a tight end premium league, you get George Kittle making it back to you at the 312. I think that honestly, Caleb has crushed this draft so far, but of course I'm going to say that with whatever team drafted Trey Lance. Okay, so Jeremy says, I think Walker can catch screens. I don't think he can't catch. Oh yeah, no. I mean, if you're looking at Kenneth Walker, he will be, capable to catch dump offs on 1st and 2nd down. However, I just don't think his skill set's going to suit him to the point where he's not getting taken off the field at any point. I mean, I know a lot of people want to say, oh, well, Jonathan Taylor wasn't viewed as a great pass catching running back coming out of Wisconsin. Jonathan Taylor had over a 10% team college target share his final year at Wisconsin compared to like a 5.4% for Kenneth Walker. I mean, two completely different options. I don't necessarily want to go all in on it. And I guess we have a very easy decision here. We're going to go Saquon Barkley. With Barkley, a running back that I got wrong this past season. I was taking the Dynasty discount on Saquon Barkley based on the injury concerns, and his value clearly has continued to fall. As a running back drafted in 2018 at 20 years old, still, very young if you compare him to guys like, let's pull up Dalvin Cook, drafted the year before. Dalvin Cook, 26. I believe Saquon Barkley, 25. And I don't want to say very young, but Dalvin Cook going into year 3 of his 2nd contract, Saquon Barkley is yet to sign that 2nd deal. And with Barkley, I understand at the end of this past season, it was very bad on a multitude of levels. A, you had, a hilariously low points per game mark for Saquon Barkley. B, you had Devontae Booker splitting the backfield. But the main thing I want to look at is the fact that it was the worst offense in the NFL. You had Mike Glennon as the starting quarterback there for the New York Giants. They were just simply unable to push the ball down the field in any meaningful capacity. So I am actually bullish on Saquon Barkley for getting him in the middle of the 4th here, especially in a PPR format when we know he can catch the ball out of the backfield. We have seen him before be valued as the 101 in Dynasty leagues. He's younger than these other options like Austin Eckler, like Dalvin Cook, like Christian McCaffrey. So I'm fine with Barkley at the 407, even though we have definitely gotten that wrong in the past. Now you got Treylon Burks, T. Higgins, Drake London. Let me know what y'all think. Do you think that this is where these wide receivers should be ranked? Because with Drake London, with Treylon Burks, with Garrett Wilson, if you pull up my Dynasty rankings, which you can find over there on Locals, and really quick, let me remind y'all, if we get 500 likes on this live stream within the first 24 hours of it being uploaded, which is like 10% of y'all hitting the like button, we're going to be giving away our rankings for free over there on Locals. I'll give you all the promo code and everything. Of course, you can find a ton of free stuff on Locals, but our rankings are behind the paywall. But if you're pulling up those rankings at the receiver position, currently I have, those rookie wide receivers, I don't want to say significantly behind these other options, but I have Deontay Johnson, wide receiver 10. I have Stephon Diggs, wide receiver 11. T. Higgins, wide receiver 12. DK Metcalf in that same tier, even though Metcalf went very much before this. But beyond that, that's when we have Treylon Burks, Garrett Wilson, Drake London. We had Calvin Ridley in that range as well, but we're going to have to be moving Calvin Ridley down drastically. I will speak on that once we get to Calvin Ridley's selection in this draft and exactly what I'm thinking of Calvin Ridley going forward. But I guess Rodgers is already gone, so we can actually talk about Aaron Rodgers right after we make our next selection. And if you're pulling up our rankings, let me just give you all some insight on best player available at every single position. Our best player available at the running back position currently is Alvin Kamara, which is right in line with ADP. At quarterback, our best player available, I know so many people are going to disagree with this, so I am probably going to just sit this one out and wait for a second, but it's going to be Zack Wilson. You have Alvin Kamara going at the 5-5. I'm not taking Zack Wilson here, however. If we're going over to wide receiver, our best player available is going to be Chris Godwin. And if we're going over to tight end, our best player available is actually going to be TJ Hawkinson. I actually am very aggressive on TJ Hawkinson going forward, especially considering the research that we have done for our Dynasty research book, looking at the age production window and how the value stacks up for these tight ends throughout their NFL careers. I actually think that at this moment, TJ Hawkinson is probably, I don't want to say about to hit that Travis Kelce level ascension, but I think people have maybe valued him a little bit too highly as of the past 3 seasons of his NFL career and really haven't been able to appreciate how great TJ Hawkinson has actually been these past 2 seasons, posting mid tight end 1 seasons, the tight end 6 and the tight end 5 on a points per game basis. At only 24 years old, you're not expecting tight ends to actually come anywhere close to this, and this should be about the next leap that he takes. So I'm never really for drafting the younger tight ends, but to get TJ Hawkinson here at the 506 in the tight end premium format, I'm going to be taking that value every single day. Okay, so let's go over and talk about some of the news we have. Aaron Rodgers, the 403. With Aaron Rodgers, after this deal, I think that you have to not only bump Rodgers up himself because, A, you have no uncertainty with the situation whatsoever. You are guaranteed to have Aaron Rodgers as a starting quarterback for the next 2 to 3 seasons in Dynasty, which, of course, is great. And there's some also outside factors we need to weigh in. The value specifically with a couple of these Green Bay Packers will be going up. I promise you. Aaron Jones is going to be worth more. AJ Dillon is going to be worth more. In best ball drafts, in dynasty startups, they will trend in the positive direction on draft boards. Now, of course, that's a given. Now, if we're talking about exactly how high I'm going to be moving them in our own dynasty rankings, let me pull up these dynasty rankings right now. And I know a lot of people are going to say, oh, well, Mason Rodgers going back to Green Bay, maybe it's good for the running backs. I thought they were going to be a little bit more run heavy if Jordan Love was going to be under center. Sure, maybe they would have been more run heavy, but they would have had less first downs. They would have had less trips to the red zone, less touchdown opportunities overall. It's 100% a good thing for Rodgers to be the starting quarterback here. So if you're pulling up where I have Aaron Jones in our rankings, I currently have Aaron Jones in the same tier as Isaiah Spiller, Ezekiel Elliott, and Leonard Fournette from a dynasty perspective. I think that he definitely has to go to the top of that tier where right now he's currently sitting in 3. And if you're looking at where I have AJ Dillon, the tier above in the same tier with Michael Carter and Elijah Mitchell. I think AJ Dillon definitely has to at least jump Michael Carter in those rankings. And now if we're talking about what we are going to have with some of the outside factors, I think one thing we need to look at is, of course, not making any, drastic changes, but the optimism you could have potentially had for a couple of these options in Denver possibly have to go down. Now, we acknowledged this at the very beginning of the offseason where I said, you know what? I have been a Jerry Jeudy. I have been a Courtland Sutton hater for years now with their dynasty value, especially Courtland Sutton. Courtland Sutton's been one of the worst valued assets in dynasty for a very long time. But this offseason, with their price cratering and with some optimism that they could get Rodgers, Wilson, Watson, maybe there was a reason to go out there and take the 50% discount that you were getting on some of those assets. Well, now with one of those options no longer as an option, even though there was only, say, a 10% chance that Rodgers ever made his way to Denver, still, if that 10% chance is now 0, I think you should be slightly more pessimistic on Jerry Jeudy. Like, let me pull up where we had Jerry Jeudy in our rankings. I had Jerry Jeudy previously as the wide receiver 34 in the same tier as Rashad Bateman, Chase Claypool, Kadarius Toney. I think that we have to at least move him behind Rashad Bateman and Chase Claypool now. I was very low on Courtland Sutton, as we've always been. With Courtland Sutton, I have him as the wide receiver 58 in the same tier as Joshua Palmer, Corey Davis, Kenny Gallaudet. Not really moving him down much. But Noah Fant, very similarly. I have Noah Fant previously in the tier with Dallas Goedert, Pat Freiermuth. But now he probably has to fall below with Dawson Knox and Cole Kmet. Fantastic value here with Chris Godwin. Fantastic value. So I would love to know your opinion on just the overall situation you have with Aaron Rodgers locking himself up as the highest NFL paid player with the Green Bay Packers. But I think that we really should be going out there and just making small adjustments to those Denver players. Like, if we're in a startup draft and we are looking for a tiebreaker between Jerry Jeudy and Rashad Bateman, we're going Rashad Bateman now. Brandon says, I just traded for Jerry Jeudy 2 days ago. Please let me know what you traded for him. Okay, so we have Kenneth Walker going into 603. Not a big Kenneth Walker guy. Oh my, what the hell am I looking at? Am I missing something? Okay, now I'm going to pipe down a little bit here until we actually get on the clock. I'll say Jaylen and I actually just got auto-drafted last night. Somehow we fell asleep, got auto-drafted Clyde Edwards-Helaire at the 9-11 in one of our startups. Okay, let's go through. How is George Pickens still available? How is it possible that you have something of this sort, of this nature? Do people not know that George Pickens is a better receiver than Treylon Burks, Drake London, and Garrett Wilson? Have people not read the tweets? Have people not heard you say that in video? Of course, I'm trolling. Of course, that's not the case. Mike Evans goes to the 604. Okay, so Thomas on the clock. 2 picks until we're up. Come on, baby. Come on. Malik Willis goes to the 605. 1 pick. 1 pick. Spears is on the clock. Spears is gone. Chase, Waddle, Metcalf, Jones, Waller. Come on. Come on. 40 seconds. Oh, God. How did ETN make it this long? Travis Etienne's going higher than this in best ball leagues just for this upcoming season. Not even a dynasty for Travis Etienne's going into his year 2. He has the 5th-year option on that rookie contract as well. Best value in the draft, not even remotely close. If you're looking at our dynasty rankings, I have Travis Etienne ranked pretty much above every single one of these. Like, if we didn't go Hawkinson here, we would have gone Etienne. I probably could talk myself into going Travis Etienne over TJ Hawkinson. Keep in mind, this is a tight end premium format. Oh, God. Okay, so now we are up on the clock. I guess we're probably going to end up taking someone I've never been a massive fan of. Yeah, we're going to take a player I don't really love, but, I mean, when we used to spew hate on him pretty much every single day, his price point was a lot higher than this. I'm fine taking Terry McLaurin at the 607. It is what it is. I definitely prefer Travis Etienne. I definitely prefer Malik Willis, but sometimes you get sniped and you're boxed out of that range. I honestly don't even want to fault anybody for taking Malik Willis here at the 605 either. I mean, speaking of what we were looking at with Breece Hall, if he has any success his rookie season, how his value would just, I mean, skyrocket to potentially being that first-round starter pick. You can see a very similar thing in play here with Malik Willis. Okay, we had Jeremy coming out, says he wanted us to go with Elijah Moore. Elijah Moore was someone I loved in rookie drafts last year, specifically before the NFL draft when you were getting him in the 2nd round based on the production profile he had at Ole Miss and the understanding of the fact he didn't break out year 1 because you had DK Metcalf, A.J. Brown, and Dawson Knox all there in that 2018 Ole Miss offense. But if I'm pulling up my rankings right now for where we have Elijah Moore and Terry McLaurin, I do have Terry McLaurin a tier ahead of Elijah Moore, even though I know a lot of people would prefer Elijah Moore in that instance. I am viewing both offenses very similarly, even though we know who the quarterback will be for the New York Jets. I don't necessarily think that means they're guaranteed to be that much better of an overall passing offense. And if we're looking at the roles that they're going to have, we've seen Terry McLaurin command a 30% team target share where Elijah Moore just hasn't come anything close. Elijah Mitchell at the 610. Brennan says, I got Jerry Jeudy, the 204, and Terrace Marshall for Damian Harrison, Darnell Mooney. Darnell Mooney, Jerry Jeudy. I would prefer Mooney, but it's not that big of a gap. And if we're looking at the 204 and Terrace Marshall for Damian Harris, probably got a small loss there, but it is what it is. It's not going to devastate your team. Mike says, Scary Terry is a monster, needs a quarterback. Definitely needs a quarterback. I would honestly be slightly concerned that if the Commanders, even though I hate saying that, if they are unable to get a quarterback with, I believe they have the 11th pick in this draft, I could be mistaken, that they end up taking someone like Garrett Wilson, that they end up taking someone like Drake London. I know most people aren't expecting it, but I mean, this team does have a massive hole at receiver. Dyami Brown clearly is not going to be panning out there in Washington, and you can't just go into the season with one receiver. And if they don't like any of the quarterbacks on the board, we can easily see them passing on that option. I mean, remember when everybody thought, oh my God, Justin Fields just fell to Carolina. Justin Fields is going to Carolina. The Carolina Panthers got to steal the draft. They passed on him. They didn't like the position. Oh, the Denver Broncos just had Justin Fields fall to him. Oh, the Denver Broncos still did. No, they passed on him. They didn't like the position. So while we want to project that Washington's going to take a quarterback in this year's draft, it's a lot easier said than done. I mean, you don't really know what's going to happen. Okay, so Michael Carter goes to the 6'12", Tua Tagovailoa at the 6'11". I'm fine with this Tua value. I really haven't liked Tua much in the past, but if you're getting him here at the 6'11", that's a good pick. Hopkins goes at the 701. Okay, so Seabass building a team primarily around the receiver position. I mean, I feel like we've been boxed out of receiver just a little bit here. I guess we could have gone Godwin over TJ Hawkinson at the 506. It is what it is. I think our pick of Saquon Barkley, honestly, we kind of had to make it. I don't think we can ever talk ourselves into going with someone like T. Higgins or Treylon Burks over Saquon Barkley. Yeah, I'm not taking DK Metcalf over Stafford. So I feel like, honestly, we haven't really passed on too many opportunities to select a receiver. I think that we've just kind of been taking the value. Kevin coming out says thoughts on IDP Dynasty. If you want to get into an IDP league, I mean, hell, if that's what you're going to find as fun, then do it. I mean, personally, I think that it'd be way too much for me to take on all of a sudden to just, instead of solely focusing in on 4 positions, to then add a completely different player pool that I have to think about. I already have way too much on my plate to do so. So personally, I have stayed away from IDP because, I mean, if I look at the time investment it will take for me to be comfortable playing in IDP leagues and more so giving IDP advice on a YouTube channel, that time investment would vastly outweigh the reward that I would actually have from that. And my time is already spread unbelievable. I stay up till 10 p.m. every night working and wake up at 6 a.m. every morning working. So I don't have any more time to spend on IDP, but if that's what's going to, I mean, bring you joy playing Dynasty, that's the entire reason you play Dynasty, is to have fun. And if you think you could have more fun playing with individual defensive players, hell, go for it. Okay, so now let's go through, scope out what we can find in the middle rounds. Okay, I think there's a single player that I'm looking at with the 706. Hopefully we don't get sniped again. Let me see if I can potentially highlight. Okay, real quick, guys. As I said, we are streaming with a new platform here, and we're streaming to a ton of different spots as well. We're streaming to Rumble. We're streaming to Twitch and YouTube at the same time. So if this live stream has anything bad on it, like if the quality is poor, please let me know ASAP. Jerry Jeudy goes to the 705. Yeah, I can't take Jerry Jeudy here, especially, I mean, with the non-possibility that you are going to end up getting Aaron Rodgers coming over. So instead, we're going to be taking Kenny Pickett as our quarterback 3 at the 706. If I'm looking at where we have Kenny Pickett ranked, I believe Pickett's going to be our highest ranked quarterback. It's either going to be Pickett or Kirk Cousins. And I apologize, we actually had Kirk Cousins ranked ahead of Kenny Pickett. I mean, that's kind of what you get when you're checking on the live stream and you're going through and looking at 10 different things. But yeah, I mean, I think that if we were to redo this pick, Kirk Cousins will be the correct selection, but Kenny Pickett should go in the top 15 picks in the NFL draft. If not, he's going to 20 to the Pittsburgh Steelers, which isn't going to be that bad of a spot anyway if he can step in year 1. So we're going to take Pickett at 706. Not too excited. Yeah, I think Kirk Cousins probably is actually the right selection over Kenny Pickett, because if we're looking at the time horizon, Kirk Cousins probably is another guaranteed 2 to 3 seasons, which is all you can really bank on from Kenny Pickett himself. And if we're looking at Cousins, he's already proven that he can be a high-end wide receiver too on a points per game basis. So I think Kirk Cousins definitely was the correct selection instead of Kenny Pickett. And that's how we have it ranked over there on locals. Okay, so now we have a donation coming out from Batmac Gaming. Thank you, my man. It says, got offered a 2022 second and third, Bridgewater, Miles Sanders, Devin Singletary, and KJ Hamler for Zack Wilson and Joe Mixon. I have the 102 and I think the 109 this year. Yeah, I'm going to have to tell you no. Like, if we walk through this, Joe Mixon himself is probably worth more than the combination of Miles Sanders, Devin Singletary. Joe Mixon himself is probably worth more than all of that. And if you're getting Zack Wilson on top of it for a super flex format, like, trust me, I loved Miles Sanders in 2019, and I was not one of the few people that were wise enough to advise to sell Miles Sanders after his hyped rookie season. So we kind of just were left holding the bag with Miles Sanders. I have Miles Sanders in a ton of leagues. However, at this point, I don't see how he ever returns to being a top 12 running back. I mean, whether it's from just a yearly standpoint or, a dynasty perspective. Singletary can easily get replaced in free agency or the NFL draft. Bridgewater may not have a starting job this upcoming year. Hamler's worth a 4th-round pick, so you're looking at Miles Sanders and potentially a 2nd, 3rd, and 4th for Joe Mixon and Zack Wilson. Just give me Joe Mixon and Zack Wilson. Okay, so Calvin Ridley goes here at the 7-10, and I owe everybody here an explanation on my stance of where we currently have Calvin Ridley in Dynasty, because if y'all remember, just a few weeks ago, I was coming out and saying Calvin Ridley, the number 1 buy in Dynasty, and it wasn't even close, and I just want to apologize to everyone. I am sorry that I am not Calvin Ridley's cousin. I am sorry that I'm not Calvin Ridley's best friend. I am sorry that I did not have insider information on Calvin Ridley's betting habits. Now, of course, I am going to do much better going forward. Before I advise trading for someone on this channel, I am going to personally reach out to them across all platforms, whether that is Twitter, Instagram, Twitch, whatever they are on, Snapchat. I will reach out to them and I will say, please, before you make me look like a fool, I need to know, are you going to be suspended for this upcoming season? I will run them through the character gauntlet. And if they pass through the Mason Dodd criteria of figuring out if they were going to play, if they would be suspended, or if there's anything going on behind the scenes. If I know that, then I will advise to trade for said player. But until then, we are going to have to look at numbers, we'll look at production, look at dynasty value, and do it the caveman style. But I'm telling you, one of these days, when y'all get me enough Twitter followers, we'll be able to get those insider scoops. Now, with Calvin Ridley, we've had a lot of people reaching out to me on locals saying, oh, is now an even better opportunity to buy Calvin Ridley? Should I be trading for Calvin Ridley now? And sadly, no. Because if we're looking at the time horizon for when Calvin Ridley is going to play and what his dynasty value will actually do, with the assumption that if we don't have Calvin Ridley suing the NFL and working his way back in or anything, and I'm also going to have to come clean with y'all. Sadly, I am not a lawyer. Sadly, I am not an expert in law. I'm not an expert in law. I don't know if Calvin Ridley is going to be able to sue the NFL and somehow come back. Now, if that's the case, maybe I'm being stupid. But with the assumption and how I'm operating right now is Calvin Ridley's not playing this upcoming season. And if Calvin Ridley's not playing this upcoming season, realistically, what can happen for his dynasty value to increase? Because let's look at some perfect examples. Should you have been going and buying Cam Akers? Should you have been going and buying J.K. Dobbins low as soon as they had season-ending injuries? At the very end of last offseason. Well, let's look at this mock draft as an example. Where were these two running backs going in dynasty startup drafts last year? They were going in the middle of the 2nd round. What was their dynasty trade price after their season-ending injuries? About the middle of the 4th round. And since then, there have been no negative factors outside of those injuries, which were already taken into account based on their change in dynasty value, to really impact these running backs anymore. And can you get them at the same exact price that they previously were at? Yes, you can. Cam Akers literally had the best thing possible come back. He came back and he showed y'all that he can play football again. That's something we were looking for, yet he's still being valued in the middle of the 4th round. Like, the buying opportunity really isn't there with these players, as you're buying him for no reason. You can probably pay this same exact price on Calvin Ridley next offseason. So be prepared next offseason for me to come out and say, buy Calvin Ridley, buy Calvin Ridley, buy Calvin Ridley. But for now, I'm going to have to sit out of the fun. We're going to have to be, the loser in the situation, saying, you know what? In reality, we probably should just have a hands-off approach. Adam coming out says, I traded Kyler and Pittman for Lance, Ridley, and the 201. Oh, honestly, you shouldn't be that sad about that because you got Trey Lance. So you could have told me you traded Kyler, Jonathan Taylor, and Justin Herbert, and you got Trey Lance and Calvin Ridley. You still probably won that deal at the end of the day. So don't be too worried about that, my man. Okay, so Chris Olave goes at the 807 to, ours truly. And with Chris Olave here, I think that you can easily make an argument that you want someone like Brandon Ayuk over him. You want Amari Cooper over him. And possibly I should have made those selections. Now, if we're looking at this team in particular, we've gone probably that was a bad slide. I don't even think I can spin that in a positive light. I think we just made a mistake there. With Chris Olave, I think it's completely fine to be taking him over Amari Cooper at this point with the Amari Cooper news. However, I do have Michael Thomas. I have Brandon Ayuk ranked ahead of Chris Olave. I have Brandon Ayuk as our wide receiver 29. I have Chris Olave as our wide receiver 31. I have Chris Olave as our wide receiver 31. Amari Cooper as our wide receiver 32. So it's all about the same. I definitely think the wide receiver is the best value in this range. If we would have had Leonard Fournette falling to us at the 807, you bet your ass I would have been drafting Leonard Fournette. But sadly, Spears is crushing this draft. I love every single one of these Spears selections outside of probably these receivers at the very beginning of the draft. But if we're looking at Waller in the 5th, best value on the board. ETN in the 6th, best value on the board. Cousins in the 7th, best value on the board. And Leonard Fournette in the 8th, best value on the board. Okay, so Derek Carr at the 810, Jameson Williams at the 811. Then Miles Sanders at the 812. Yeah, speaking on Miles Sanders, what we were talking about earlier, this is a running back that, I think we had, let me pull up the trade yet again. It was Zack Wilson and Joe Mixon for Miles Sanders, Devin Singletary, KJ Hamler, Teddy Bridgewater, and a second and a third. Here, hopefully this helps you answer that question. You have Miles Sanders going at the 8-9 turn in the startup draft compared to Joe Mixon going at the 3-4 turn. And not to mention that you have Zack Wilson here as the middle of the 6th round selection, and you don't really have anybody else in that range, in that trade in this range yet. Okay, so we have Hunter Renfrow at the 904. So at this point, we have 3 receivers, a running back, 3 quarterbacks, a tight end. I really don't care about keeping our roster balanced because if this was a real league, I would be saying, well, it's March. Who the hell cares if, we have 7 wide receivers through the first 8 rounds. If that's where the value is, we can make trades in March, April, May, June, July, August to get our teams ready for the upcoming season. But now we are going to be up on the clock. I honestly don't really love these. Speaking of possibly just having to continue to take value and ignoring roster construction, Ryan Tannehill is the best value on the board here. I don't really think it's close either. Now, I will tell you, if I knew this was a league that was going to be very active with trading, I would take Ryan Tannehill here. However, with this being a mock draft and with people going to lose their mind if I do so, I will just bite the bullet and take Chase Claypool for y'all. I'll take my wide receiver for my quarterback 4. But if we were talking about just raw dynasty value, I probably would have just taken Tannehill with the assumption that we could flip him a little bit later on. Okay, so Adam says, I think Zack Wilson is the biggest value in the startups. I know, my friend. I've heard that a lot. Okay, so where did Zack Wilson go here? Zack Wilson went at the 608. I think the gap between Zack Wilson and Ryan, I think the biggest value in these startups is honestly Ryan Tannehill. For me to take Kenny Pickett at the 706 and to let Ryan Tannehill fall this far, it's probably a very bad selection. Let's kind of see where else we could have gone. Hollywood Brown definitely was my highest ranked wide receiver in the 7th round here. Would I prefer the combination of Hollywood Brown and Ryan Tannehill or Kenny Pickett and Chase Claypool? Probably Hollywood Brown. I think that this Kenny Pickett selection was pretty damn bad. Okay, real quick, we passed 100 likes in the live stream. Of course, thank you all so much for everybody going down there and dropping a like on the stream. And like I said, if we hit 500 likes within the first 24 hours, I will give out all our rankings and everything for free on a week over there on Locals. And of course, if you have not joined Locals yet, you can find the link in the live chat, find in the description. There's going to be a lot of free stuff over there as is. I mean, that's pretty much where we have our group chat now. I think it's a much better, overall setup to have y'all post on the board your questions and for me to be able to just go through and respond to those questions. But not only myself responding those like how we used to do through DMs on Patreon, but we've had a lot of other people in the flock community going and giving you their feedback as well. And like I always say, I am an idiot. Everybody watching this live stream is probably just as smart as I am, if not significantly smarter. So I want to hear your opinion. I want to, especially you, use that opinion and help other people in the flock. Johnny said, what's Locals? Locals is essentially a better version of Patreon. It's a version of Patreon that we're going to be able to get just a better community feeling in it rather than it's like you're just paying for rankings. Okay, so Kadarius Toney goes to the 909. We have Kadarius Toney, Chase Claypool, and Hunter Renfrow ranked pretty much all back-to-back. The Lord's Angel says, what do y'all think of Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, Drake London, Justin Ross, and Breece Hall? Okay, I think that's a loaded question. And, we've gone through and talked about that for like 20 minutes on each guy. Mike Williams to the 911. Mike Williams, I actually think while most people assume that Mike Williams is going to be leaving Los Angeles, that he's probably going back. With Mike Williams, this is a receiver that is a natural fit with Justin Herbert. He's a natural fit playing alongside Keenan Allen, with Keenan Allen, operating closer to the line of scrimmage, with Mike Williams being, more of a vertical element. And to go along with this is a team that has Justin Herbert on the rookie contract, so they're not paying the Patrick Mahomes $50 million a year. It's completely reasonable to expect that they will have the money to bring back Mike Williams. It's not like Joshua Palmer is some fantastic receiving option that they just have to get more snaps to, have to give more routes to, and that's why they're going to move on from Mike Williams. Okay, so let me pull up my phone real quick to make sure this live stream is going well. As I said, we are streaming on a completely different platform. Hopefully my internet's good enough for it. Oh my God, this stream is looking good. This is like the highest quality stream we've had. Probably the audio is a little bit off, but that's something I'm going to be able to easily fix. I am excited about this, ladies and gentlemen. Very excited. And oh yeah, if y'all click become a member on Locals, it's not going to you'll know if you're having to pay for something or not. Like, you can sign up for free and just literally see what it is before you would ever have to pay anything. There will be some stuff behind a paywall, but you'll see exactly what's behind a paywall. You'll see exactly what's free. Okay. George Pickens at the 10:03. Really like this Tyler Lockett selection. I'm honestly surprised to see Lockett last this far. Yeah, we have Tyler Lockett, Hunter Renfrow, Mike Williams all in the same tier. Damian Harris at the 10:04. I've never been a big fan of Damian Harris due to the lack of upside in the receiving game, but if you're getting him in the 10th, completely fine with the selection. Okay. Come on. There's one player that I'm looking at, pretty excited about. So there are two guys I'd be fine with. You know what? So yeah, we're 3 picks away. I think we're going to get one of our 2 players. The 3 guys I'd be fine with falling to us right now, just because I'd be fine with 3 players I'd be willing to share. I'd be fine with Dotson, Rachaad White, or Devin Singletary. Any 3 of those will be all good by me. Okay. Fantasy Football Atomic says, just curious, do you do 1 quarterback drafts as well or just Superflex? Honestly, if it's Dynasty, I'm just sticking with Superflex. Like, I'll play in a 1 quarterback best ball league. I'll play in a 1 quarterback high stakes redraft format, but really, I think it was 2016 or 2017 that I said, you know what? all my dynasty leagues are super flex leagues from now on. Like the few one quarterback leagues that I was in for dynasty fantasy football, particularly back in 2014, 2015, I literally left them and I was like, I'm just doing super flex. Super flex is so much more fun. Okay, so now we can take Dotson or we can take Rachaad White. I think Rachaad White has the highest potential to raise in value from here based on the ability to be pretty much that third down plus running back. But I think Dotson probably has the higher floor if we're talking about his value overall. So let's take Dotson, even though with White, say if White goes within the first 80 picks or so of the NFL draft and he finds himself a landing spot where he's going to have a roll right away, I would not be that surprised if all of a sudden White is going in the 7th round of these startups, where even if Dotson ends up going to like Kansas City, I don't think he's moving beyond this tier guys like Hopkins, Amaro St. Brown, or McLaurin, Elijah Moore. I think that you would actually probably have a higher ceiling from White than you would for Dotson to increase in value after the NFL draft. Okay, so we are probably going to get... We'll keep it going. I got some time. And I'm honestly having a lot of fun with this draft. And I'm also currently in a real Dynasty startup draft for everybody a part of the Locals community. And we are closing in on this range. I believe we are literally at the beginning of the 10th. Let me pull up that draft so I can figure out where we are. Yeah, so Jayan and I are on the clock. Interesting. Maybe I can call up Jayan and we can make a pick on the live stream. Yeah, at the end of this mock draft, we'll probably pull up our current draft board, and Jayan and I will get a live pick in a real money dynasty startup after this. Okay, Christian Watson goes to the 10-11. I know a lot of people like Watson. I mean, my issue is if we're looking at his analytical profile, it's very good. I will give you that. Like, let me pull this up real quick just to give the man some respect. I completely understand where people are coming from. I mean, this is a receiver that, oh, it's going to be so hard for me to pull up his, oh, I did not know this about Christian Watson, but he was born in Tampa. I guess we got to move him up our rankings. But I need to find the North Dakota State Bison statistics. Okay, so. Honestly, yeah, I think Dotson's a much better prospect. Obviously, Christian Watson's bigger, he's faster, but at the receiver position, I don't care about that nearly as much. I really care about that production. So I don't feel bad about having Dotson over him. Like if we're pulling up where we have Dotson in our rookie rankings compared to Christian Watson, I have Christian Watson down there at, I mean, the 19th pick overall, and I have Dotson significantly higher than that. I have Christian Watson even behind someone like David Bell, which I know everybody hates at this point. And trust me, I hated David Bell a very long time ago, but I mean, if he's going in this range, like if David Bell is someone that people think should be going behind Christian Watson, give me David Bell over him. Juju Smith-Schuster at the 1104. There will always be a soft spot in my heart for Juju. Allen Robinson continues to fall in value in dynasty drafts, as he should. Okay, yeah, there are some clear targets here. There are another about 3 guys that I'd be fine with, and we're only 1 pick away, so we should be good here. John says, Pat McAfee said the Rodgers deal is false. Oh my gosh. What are we talking about? Maybe the numbers and the exact details are false. I would be very surprised if the entire thing is. Okay, so I'm going to go way off the draft board here. I'm just going to stick it with my dynasty rankings. And if I pull up my current dynasty rankings, the number 1 guy that we have is a veteran player, a little bit older, but I guess we're going to go Robert Woods, especially when we have the Matthew Stafford stack with the 306 and the 1106 combination. I mean, with Woods, of course, he was not a wide receiver one as we previously have seen based on, I mean, Cooper Kupp's absolute dominance. But, I mean, once you have the Odell Beckham Jr. literally injury during the Super Bowl, which is, I believe, 2 months after what we had from Robert Woods in his own injury, I'd be a lot more comfortable with the Robert Woods time frame. He's also signed to Los Angeles this next season, so I could see them moving on from Odell. Carson Wentz, great value at the 1108 as well. Carson Wentz was a player that I was considering. Yeah, so we're going to take Woods, even though I know he's very far down there according to ADP. I'm going to just be true to my dynasty rankings. I have Robert Woods as the best value on the board. I'm going to take Robert Woods. Joe says, since you have a decent amount of shares of Ridley, can you talk about what you might trade for him if you are a contender and need value right now? I've talked about that earlier in the live stream, not trading for Calvin Ridley. For him to increase his dynasty trade value from this offseason to next year, nothing is going to happen, really. All that's going to happen is, I guarantee you, if you want to trade for Calvin Ridley, the best time to trade for him is going to be week 6. Week 5, week 6, when everybody's focused in on submitting their starting lineup, exactly what's happening in the NFL, and nobody's talked about Calvin Ridley for a year. Or not, obviously not a year, but for 6 months. I think that's probably going to be the best time to go out there and actually target someone like Calvin Ridley. And this is coming from someone who had Calvin Ridley as their #1 trade target in Dynasty literally just a few weeks ago. But I am sorry, I'm not smart enough to understand what's going on behind the scenes. Hopefully one of these days, y'all send me enough Instagram followers, you send me enough Twitter followers, you send me enough YouTube subscribers where I can hang out with these players and they feel like I got the clout and I can ask them, hey man, are you betting? Are you on DraftKings? Are you on FanDuel? Are you on Underdog? What, are we doing something here? And try to figure that out. Okay, so Jimmy Garoppolo at the 1201. God, Rondale Moore is just falling like a rock, which he honestly should. But just kind of funny, like the difference between Rondale Moore and Rashad Bateman with their dynasty ADP is, or Rondale Moore and Elijah Moore is probably like 30 wide receivers. Allen Robinson at the 1203. And also this gap, like I view Justin Ross and George Pickens essentially as the same receiver. The only difference is Justin Ross, his injury is a little bit more serious. I mean, that's something that we actually have to worry about in the long term. Rashad Penny goes to the 1204. Tolbert goes to the 1205. I talked about Tolbert being an intriguing, very, very late round wide receiver. And I talked about Sky Moore being an overrated wide receiver. You still have to have Sky Moore over Tolbert. I mean, that was more so me saying, I'd like drafting Tolbert in the 4th round, and please don't be drafting Sky Moore at the beginning of the 2nd. But I think here, like, I can't be taking Tolbert over Rondale Moore. Okay, let me pull up my actual dynasty rankings. If I'm looking at the best running back we have available, I believe that's most likely, oh, Melvin Gordon's on the board. I didn't even see Melvin Gordon was available. I think I have to take Melvin Gordon here. It's boring, I understand that, but if you're looking at potential landing spots that you have this upcoming season, I mean, think that Melvin Gordon could actually find himself in a favorable situation. I guess Baker probably would have been a fine value as well. Let's just take Melvin Gordon. We're taking him as our running back 2. It is what it is. Adam Thielen goes to the 1208. Mike says, I traded Christian McCaffrey for the 101 in Michael Carter. What do you think? I'd love to flip Michael Carter for a 2023 first, and if you're able to do that, great trade. Jinx says, do you still plan on doing IDP leagues this year? Honestly, probably not. I have so much on my plate, and hopefully we're streaming on the main channel as well sometime soon. So I don't think we're going to do any IDP. I apologize for everybody, but the thing is, I could probably get into IDP leagues, but one reason I feel like I can confidently speak on Dynasty Fantasy Football and strategy in Dynasty Fantasy Football is I've been playing since 2014. Since 2014, I've pretty much been in like 20 Dynasty leagues every single season. Like I've been addicted to Dynasty. I've learned a lot of things. That's why I started this channel so long ago, because it was my #1 passion, and I felt like I was actually much better than the average Dynasty player. Now, I will say, since I started the channel, the average Dynasty player has gotten so much better, where I'm not nearly as good as I used to be, even though I want to pretend like I am. But if I all of a sudden try to start talking about IDP, I'm not going to be able to help anybody. If anything, I'm probably going to start hurting people. Like, I can try to have some fun with it, but I'm not that interested in it at this moment. And also, I've never done it. So I would rather play IDP for a couple of years. Maybe I'll get in a league or two this offseason and keep that behind the scenes and really just feel it out and try to learn. But for me to start making IDP videos, it'd be disingenuous. I'd probably be doing more harm than good. So probably not. I'm sorry. Leonardo says, is the sound panned on the left? Yes, the sound's on the left. I promise you, I'll fix that for the next live stream. We have a completely new live stream setup. I'm actually very happy with it so far, with how the quality looked on my phone. The audio should be fixed in the next one. I have to down mix it to auto, but on OBS, I don't know how to do that just yet. Okay, so let me pull this up. What sucks about Sleeper is the ADP is all out of sort. Like, you have Van Jefferson behind Kahil Shakir. I mean, you have Kenny Gallaudet behind Myles Gaskin. You have Corey Davis and Terrace Marshall and Donovan Peoples-Jones behind KJ Osborne. I know. Oh, we're on the clock. I didn't even realize that we were on the clock. I was just kind of scrolling through, checking out names. I think we may go with a player most people are not going to be happy with me for selecting. I don't even think I have time to check my Dynasty rankings. Yeah, he's literally in the same tier as Sutton for me. We're going to go Kenny Gallaudet. Kenny Gallaudet, hated him last offseason. I thought the hype that Kenny Gallaudet had was hilarious, with people telling me, oh, Daniel Jones #1 on deep money throws. And you look at the PFF grades, and Daniel Jones qualified for like 7 deep PFF throws. So I spent all last offseason hating on people trying to hype up Kenny Gallaudet. But at the end of the day, he has a massive contract. There's the outside chance that New York can upgrade the quarterback position this offseason. There's a much better coaching staff coming in. So I'm completely fine taking Kenny Gallaudet at the 1306 at this point. Irv Smith Jr., honestly, in a tight end premium format, probably should have been the selection. I didn't pull up the tight end position. If we would have had more time, if I would have been paying attention, I think Irv Smith Jr. is the correct selection. But if we're talking about wide receivers, if you go over to my Dynasty rankings, in tier 17, I have Joshua Palmer, Corey Davis, Courtland Sutton, and Kenny Gallaudet. I think they're all very similar. And you just had Joshua Palmer and Courtland Sutton going off here. Okay, so Irv Smith Jr. at the 1308. Okay, and yeah, I see some people in the chat saying IDP is very fun. We should get into it. I will probably play in a league or two this offseason. The thing is, I'm not going to make any videos on it. Like I said, I think I'd be doing more harm than good, which maybe is the case now, but at least I want to pretend like it's not. And of course, I'm saying that sarcastically. I know I'm helping y'all crush it. I understand. But in reality, with IDP, I just simply am not going to be able to provide anything of value or enough value for y'all. Okay, so let's scroll down. Like, these quarterbacks are just... I think if we're talking about the expected points from any given one of these, I mean, any given pick in this range, Jared Goff, Jameis Winston, Jordan Love, these are the guys we should be taking. Jordan Weidemeyer goes at the 1403. Massive tight end. What was the official recorded size of Weidemeyer? I did not see that at the combine. Let me pull that up. Jaylen Weidemeyer, 6'4", 255. Okay, so he's supposed to be 6'6". It doesn't really matter too much. Russell Gage at the 1404. I think we have Justin Ross actually higher than... Yeah, no... In the last tier we have Van Jefferson, Justin Ross, John Mechie, and Laviska Shenault. You have Jordan Love going at the 1405. Jordan Love, we have him ranked right between Matt Ryan and Jameis Winston. Yeah, I have Jared Goff ranked ahead of Jordan Love. Especially, I mean, if that Aaron Rodgers deal is true, is any team going to be willing to trade anything of significance for Jordan Love based on how bad he has been in the limited starts that we've had from him? And this is coming from someone who's had Jordan Love in a lot of dynasty leagues. I don't want to act like I haven't bought Jordan Love higher than this. I mean, I was drafting Jordan Love previously in like the 11th round of startups last offseason, but we just have to adjust with the value in the situation. And I think that you have to take Jared Goff, have to take Jameis Winston over Jordan Love at this point. Tyler Boyd goes to the 1406. We actually have Tyler Boyd ranked ahead of Kenny Gallaudet. I don't know how we missed that, but we are going to take Jared Goff here as our fourth quarterback. Most likely going to call the draft here as well. I'm having to fly to Texas to drive my grandpa to Florida this weekend, so I am going to be having to work my little tail off to make sure that we have videos and a bunch of content to come out this weekend as well, and I am trying to finish that Dynasty research book for everybody. I promise you, I've been working my ass off with it. I am hoping that y'all enjoy it. Really hoping that y'all enjoy that Dynasty research book. But I think that should be it for this live stream. Let me swap this over here. And yeah, of course, thank you so much for being a part of the flock. I am sorry about the audio being a little bit weird in this live stream, but I see that we have more likes in the live stream right now than live viewers. So thank y'all so much for all the support. Clint says, switching over to locals. Thanks for letting me know. No, thank you, my dude. And yeah, real quick, if you are going over to locals from Patreon, check the Patreon page because there is a free month for everybody moving over from Patreon to locals. Like I wanted to make sure y'all weren't getting double charged. So we set up a free month from everybody on Patreon to locals. If you don't know how to do that, message me on Patreon. Be happy to set you up. Of course, you can always go check out locals for completely free. Anyway, if you don't want to get behind the paywall, you can figure that out in the link in the description. But thank y'all again. Hope you all have a great day and hope we get to see you out with the video tomorrow.